StraighTAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to check yourself for bullshit. Yes, how to check yourself for bullshit, because you know the person who is easiest to fool with bullshit is not another person. It's not somebody who you think has less intelligence than you. You are actually the easiest person to fool with your own bullshit. So I'm going to tell you how to check yourself for it when you may be guilty of it. And we all got to check ourselves every now and then. But before we do that, let me tell you a couple things. First of all, I send out a daily motivation text every morning free of charge. Everyone who's in my text community, you would like to receive this message that is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Send a message to the following number, 305-384-6894. And every day when that message goes out, it will go in to your text message inbox. Number two, if you have not yet gotten your ticket to my next live event, it is called Work on Your Game Live. It is taking place in Miami, Florida, February 3rd and 4th. We are going to be covering mindset, strategy, systems, and execution. Listen, I know who my audience is. I know who the people are who are attracted to the show. I know who the people are who listen to the show and say, this is the right guy, this is the right person, this is the right time and the right place. I know that these are the challenges that you have. That's why the event is built around it. Mindset first is the foundation of everything that we do here, is the foundation of all success, is also the foundation of failure. Strategy, that is your plan of action. What exactly are you going to do and how exactly are you going to do it? Systems, those are what allow the strategy to be executed such that you, even if you feel like you're working as hard as you possibly can right now, I know that some of you, when you have the right system, you don't have to work 10 times harder to make 10 times the money or produce 10 times the results. You may not think that's possible. I know you don't think it's possible because you never had the right system before, or many of you are operating without a system. You're just randomly doing stuff and hoping that your effort and talent is enough to make it work. And it can take you to a certain point, but it can't take you past that. We're going to tell you how to actually do that the right way. I'm going to show you at Work on Your Game Live. And the last one is the execution. That is the accountability to make sure things get done. That is the actually doing things on a consistent basis, and it's the rewards and the results that come from the fact that you are operating a system with a clear and clean strategy. That's you making the money, you getting the followers, the happiness, the fulfillment, etc. All of that's going to be covered at Work on Your Game Live. So now that you are sold on the event, here's what you do. Go to workonyourgame.live. Workonyourgame.live, not .com, workonyourgame.live, and get your ticket to this event. This event is February 3rd and 4th in Miami. Write this off on your taxes as a business expense. And you are investing in yourself, investing in your business. You're doing something that 98% of people who own businesses do not do all year. They don't do in 10 years, which is invest in their professional development. If you want to develop professionally, you got to do things that the professionals do. Name a professional who does not invest in their business who is actually getting better. Name one. All right, since you can't, now make sure you're not one of those people. Go to workonyourgame.live, get your tickets to that event. And the third thing, outside of the event, I have a coaching program. This coaching program is the program where we take those same elements that I just told you about, mindset, strategies, systems, execution, and we put it into an 8-week program that will show you exactly how to do this stuff. And I give you a whole bunch of self-training material you get lifetime access to. That is all at, here's how you get access to that. Or first of all, you got to get on a call with me to get access to any of it. You got to be in the program first. You got to get on a call with me first. Go to workonyourgame.net/apply, APPLY, workonyourgame.net/apply. Get on a call with me. We'll see where you're at, where you want to go, where your challenges are. I'll tell you what our program looks like if you're a good fit, what it would take to get into it, and what you're going to get inside of it. That is all at, again, workonyourgame.net/apply. Links to everything I just mentioned is down below in the show notes. Let's get into our topic. Topic again today is how to check yourself for bullshit. This episode is about self-accountability and making sure that you are not fooling yourself when you are indeed the easiest person for you to fool. You're not the easiest person in the world to fool. You're the easiest person for you to fool. So that's why this accountability topic matters so much. And we talked about accountability. Most recently, we did an episode number 2172, how accountability is a double-edged sword. Episode 1950, asking yourself, are you accountability resistant? Episode Number 1793, holding yourself and others accountable without beating them up or beating them down. Episode 1305, earning your right to hold people accountable. Episode 765, closing your accountability gaps. Now, while I know that you are the type of person who invests in yourself and gets around people like consultants, trainers, and coaches, people who can catch any slippage in your game, I already know you're the type of person who already does that. All right, and I'm looking at you. You still need to be accountable to yourself, even when you have professionals around you whose very job it is to hold you accountable. All right, even when you have people you've invested in getting help from, you still got to be accountable to yourself. So this topic still matters, even when you have those others around you. So let's get into it. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is how to check yourself for bullshit. And what I'm going to tell you here today are 3 questions that you need to be asking yourself on a consistent basis, and then I'll explain why these questions will help you check yourself for bullshit, and then what to do based on the answers that you get. Point number 1 is first question: where am I lying to myself? It's the first question you need to ask yourself. Where in my life am I telling myself lies that make me feel good but are not helping me do good? This is what we call rationalizing. And rationalizing can be broken down into 2 words: rational lies. That is not where the word actually comes from, but it's a clever breakdown of the word. Rationalizing means telling yourself rational, logical, practical, acceptable lies. This ability to rationalize is one of the main skills that separates human beings from animals, and is one of the main reasons why we can dominate the animal kingdom, because we have this ability to basically craft stories in our mind that are not actually happening. Because animals, you see, they can only react and respond to what is actually happening. Animals for the most part don't have the human ability to predict things. They don't have the ability to look into the past at things, and they don't have the ability to basically tell themselves a story that differs from what is actually happening in front of them. Only humans can do this. And this is the reason why we can dominate animals, even though many animals are much bigger, stronger, and faster than human beings, because we have a mental ability that they don't have. So what humans can do, we can make up stories about the past and the future that, again, this separates us from your dog or your cat or a lion or a bear. Thus, because we can make up stories and we can predict the past, and predict the future and think about the past, we can predict the behaviors of others, whether animals or humans. And because of this, we can make judgment calls about things that might happen, that haven't yet happened. And we can tell ourselves stories about the present that make us feel better or worse about the current situation that is in front of us. Has any of you ever done that? Any of you ever told yourself a rational lie that made you feel better about a situation that you know is not as good as you told the story it was, as the story that you told was? Many of us have done this. We all actually do this on some level, because none of us has a perfect life. So we got to come up with some kind of story in our minds to make us okay with certain situations. Otherwise, we probably drive ourselves crazy for the most part. Has any of you ever told yourself a story about a current situation that made the situation seem worse than it actually was, and thusly made yourself feel worse because you told yourself a story that made the situation seem dire when it wasn't really that bad? See, animals don't have the ability to do any of this. So this is why animals don't have the worries and the anxieties and the stress and the fear that humans have. You never had to take an animal to a therapist, right? Actually, there's some people who do take their animals to therapists. I don't think the type of people who take their animals to therapists are the type of people who listen to this show. I would guess that those are not the type of people who are attracted to me and my message. But that does exist, but I don't think most people do that. Animals don't have these problems because they can't think the way that we think. That's the point. See, this ability to rationalize is a strength of human beings, but it also can become a weakness, specifically in the area of this one point of rationalization. We are really good at making up stories to make ourselves feel better about things that we probably shouldn't feel that good about, because the fact that we make ourselves feel better about certain situations is also the very thing that causes us to not take the urgent action that we need to take about those situations, because we tell ourselves that it's okay when it's not okay. But see, if we had to face the harsh reality of every situation in our lives that is less than ideal, we would drive ourselves crazy. For the most part, people would go crazy. Well, Actually, people, it's not guaranteed everybody will go crazy. What some people do, a few exceptional individuals, some of you who are listening to the show fall into this category, is you would start taking urgent action on every area of your life that needs to be addressed, and your life would become a lot better because you would be addressing things instead of putting them off and telling yourself bullshit stories about them. And remember today's topics, how to check yourself for bullshit. But what most people would do is not take that urgent action because they would feel overwhelmed by all the things that they had to face the reality of in their own lives, and instead they would drive themselves crazy because of all the things that they know they would need to do and address and not allow to continue and persist. And instead they would drive themselves crazy. And if we got any therapists who are listening to the show, all of you will be making a lot of money. And I would suggest all of you raise your prices, double, triple, and 10 extra prices, because you would have so much demand on your hands that people would pay for it because they'd be going crazy because they would have to actually address the shit in their lives instead of doing nothing about it like most people are currently doing. And I'm not talking about people who are currently in therapy. I'm talking about people who are not in therapy, have never gone to therapy, but they would need therapy because they would feel overwhelmed by all the shit that they would need to actually address in their lives instead of just putting it off and telling themselves a story that makes them feel better about it. Everybody following what I'm saying here? See, the challenge with all of this rationalization, which allows us to maintain our sanity, is that the flip side of it, that it allows us to maintain our sanity, is that it allows us to abuse the ability to rationalize such that it becomes normal for us to rationalize, and we sink into a comfort zone of telling ourselves stories about things that allow us to eventually not just say it's okay, I can put it off till tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. What we eventually do, the more we rationalize about anything, is that we eventually just completely ignore it. That's the extreme end of rationalization, is that not only do we tell ourselves a story to make us feel okay so that we can eat dinner and we can go to sleep tonight, but eventually we rationalize about things so often that we completely ignore the fact that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. Oh, and trust me, I run a coaching program, folks. I have programs on systems, I have programs on strategies, I have programs on mindset. I know exactly what challenges people have. I send out a text message, I respond to text messages. Any of you who's in my text community, you know I respond to your messages. Any of you who's left comments on any of my socials or YouTube and stuff like that, you know I read those comments and respond to these things. I know what kind of challenges people have. And oftentimes, by the time somebody gets around to dealing with someone like myself, is because you have rationalized about a challenge in your life for long enough that you finally got to the breaking point where you said, let me stop bullshitting myself about this and do something about it. Then you end up talking to somebody like me. Ideally, you would come and find somebody like me as soon as you notice that there's a little thing that needs to be addressed. But human beings, we don't work this way. We got to get to a breaking point before we do something. This is just human nature, all right? So I'm not knocking you, at least not this part. Now, some of the things I'm gonna say here today is holding the mirror up to you and proverbially smacking you in the face with the truth. But this part is not knocking you, because every human being does this. Is that we put things off until we cannot ignore it anymore, then we decide to do something about it. I'm hoping that some of you get the message here, and you stop allowing this habit to be this habit. This is a natural human thing, so I'm trying to tell you to go against the grain of what you naturally want to do, which is put things off until you can't put them off anymore. So here's my question, because remember, we're talking about checking yourself for bullshit. Because what we do is, before I get to my question, we tell ourselves stories that let us ignore things. We tell ourselves stories that make us feel better about things, and we keep telling ourselves the stories to the point that we ignore it, and we don't do anything about it. So here's the question: where are you telling yourself rational lies that are letting you off the hook about fixing something that you actually need to address? That's the question. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to check yourself for bullshit. Number 2, where are your emotions controlling your steering wheel? Which is a very, very, very bad and dangerous strategy if you're allowing this to happen. Question again: where are your emotions controlling the steering wheel of the vehicle of your life? This is another skill that human beings have that animals do not. We have the ability to think logically about things and not just react emotionally and instinctively to what happens in front of us. Animals don't have this ability. They can only react instinctively to what happens to them. Animals just react. Our animals do not respond, they react. Animals go off instincts, and thusly that's why you get the reactions. Human beings, we have the ability to control our emotions and our reactions. We do sometimes react, we do sometimes do things instinctively, but we also have the ability, if we so choose to engage it, to control our emotions, to hold back on our reactions and what our instincts tell us to do, and instead respond. The difference between a response and a reaction is that a reaction has no space in between the stimulus and what we do. A response has a space in between the two. So something happens, you put a space there, then you do something. We call that responding. A reaction is when something happens, you immediately come right back. And sometimes that's good, but oftentimes that can get us in trouble. All right? You probably have some experiences in your own life when you know that's gotten you in trouble. See, the thing is, just because we have the ability to do something doesn't mean we should always use that ability, and doesn't mean that we always do use it when it's useful for us. So here's the question: where are you allowing your emotions to navigate your vehicle? Because this is not a good thing. Remember that I told you that emotions are great gas pedals, but terrible steering wheels. That was in episode number 2155. You never want your emotions controlling the vehicle of your car. All right, imagine if you were driving emotionally. All right, you probably wouldn't make it to your destination without crashing into something. But when you drive logically, you do pretty well. You want to use your emotions to push you forward, i.e. the gas pedal, once you have logically chosen a direction. That's where emotions come in. That's you controlling your emotions and directing them, not bottling them up, but controlling and directing them, channeling them. You never allow your emotions to grab the steering wheel of a vehicle, because they will drive you straight into a brick wall and you might not survive that accident. And you will not win your battle against that brick wall. Okay, I'm not telling you to ignore emotions. I'm not telling you to turn them off. That's humanly impossible. I'm telling you to recognize your emotions, channel them, and don't allow them to dictate the action in your life. All right, that's a very, very bad idea. Many people have made some bad, undoable decisions based on emotion. That once they got a chance to get some space, i.e. response space, and think about the situation logically, they realize the error in their ways. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to check yourself for bullshit. Number 3, here's the third question. Where am I not living up to my own principles and positions? I.e., where are you not doing the same things that you say to your audience, to your kids, to your staff, to your fans, to your friends? Where are you not living up to your own words? Where are you out of integrity with your own language and beliefs? Now, I told you today we're going to be talking about checking yourself for bullshit, right? So all of these questions are very useful questions if you actually ask them and you demand answers of yourself. You don't have to answer to me, but you do have to answer to yourself these questions. See, this question right here is one where you got to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Because nobody can tell you, for the most part, many people won't be able to tell you where you are guilty of this third one, that you are not living up to your own principles and positions. Because the places where you're not living up to the things that you're saying, often you might be the only one who knows about it, or maybe only a small handful of people might know where you're not living up to your own words, but you know, and that's the most important thing. So you got to be able to check yourself for your own bullshit. This is again, self-accountability. This is where you look in the mirror. So where are you living in direct conflict with the things that you say to yourself, things that you read to yourself, the things that you listen to, the things you have written down, the things you believe, and maybe even things that you say to other people? Where are you telling other people one thing, but you are living a completely different way? Where are you out of integrity and out of congruence with your own beliefs, principles, and ideas? There was this commercial back in the day when America had the war on drugs. This was back in the 80s and maybe early 90s. And there was this, they used to have all these commercials about, telling people not to do drugs. These days, I don't know, you let the current administration have their way. They probably have commercials telling you, encouraging you to do drugs. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But in this conversation back in the day, there was apparently it was a dad and a son. And the dad approached the son inside the house, and he had like a plate with apparently some drugs on it. And the dad holds the plate up to the son and shows him the drugs. It was apparently the kid's plate that he found somewhere in the house. And he says, "Hey, what is this?" And the kid is just looking at his dad with this surprised face. And dad says again, "What is this? Where'd you learn this? Where'd you get this? Who taught you how to do this stuff?" And finally the kid speaks to the dad, and he kind of explodes at the dad and yells at him. He says, "You all right? I learned it by watching you." And then the dad gets this ashamed, first he's surprised, then he gets this shameful look on his face in this commercial. You can probably find this commercial on YouTube. I would look it up, but I wouldn't even know what to type in to find it. But you can probably find this commercial on YouTube. It's one of those don't do drugs commercials. And then there was a voiceover that came over on the screen while they're showing the dad with this shamed look on his face. And the voice says, "Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs." And the whole point of me telling you that story is this: where are you telling your audience, whether those are your kids, whether it's you could be your own audience. What are you saying to yourself? Where are you telling your staff if you have a business? Where are you telling other people one thing, but the way you're living is in complete contradiction to what you're saying? Where are you not living up to your own stuff? Because this means you are out of integrity. That's what we call this. Integrity is when you are living the same way you talk. All right, and listen, let me be clear here. You don't have to talk perfect. All right, you can talk however you want to talk. If you talk about doing drugs and you do drugs, hey, you're in integrity. Or you're doing the same thing you talk about. But if you talk about not doing drugs, you can't be doing drugs behind closed doors. Now you're out of integrity. So however you want to be, just be that way. All right, whatever you're about, be about it. All right, that's all I'm saying in this third point right here. So if you're about some nonsense, all right, just talk about the stuff that you're about. That's the way you want to live. That's the way you want to live. But don't be saying one thing and then doing another, because now there's a conflict between your words and your actions, and you can never become the best version of yourself when there's that conflict. So whatever you're about, be about it. And if you're about something that's not ideal, not perfect, and that some people might have an issue with, that's all right. So is everybody else. Everybody on this planet is doing something that ain't perfect. All right, there are no perfect human beings. We are all mere mortals. But make sure you are checking yourself for where you are out of integrity with yourself, because for the most part, nobody else can point this out in you. Maybe there are some things where somebody is saying something and it's different from what they're actually doing. But by the time we get to about age 13, we get pretty good at tailoring our words around knowing what we're doing. So only you can really be honest with yourself about this one. And everybody has answers to this question. Because if every single one of us was living up to every single one of our beliefs, principles, and ideas, if every single one of us lived up to everything that we talk about, and everything that we read, and everything that we write, and everything that we believe, and everything that we like on Facebook, then you know what we would be doing right now as a human race? We'd be building fucking 100-story skyscrapers on the moon right now if everybody was living up to everything that they talked about. And since we ain't building anything on the moon right now, that's because we are imperfect, all of us. So there would be very little underperforming, very little underachievement. Even if the condo building was only being built by only 2% of us, even if it was just 2% of us who was living up to everything that we talked about, we'd still be building condos on the moon right now. And you're saying, Jerry, how would that be happening to only 2% of people? Well, 2% of 8 billion is 160 million people. So if 160 million people, that's half of the United States of America, was living up to everything that we talked about, we'd be doing a lot more than we're doing right now. A lot of things would be different if half of America was living up to everything that they talked about. That's a different conversation for a different day. All right, but you get the point. So this is another question you need to ask yourself. Let's recap today's class, which is how to check yourself for bullshit. This episode is about self-accountability. Make sure that you are not fooling yourself, because you can fool yourself better than you can fool anybody else. Point number one. First question, where am I lying to myself? Where are you telling yourself rational lies? Where are you rationalizing? This ability to rationalize is what separates humans from animals, the ability to tell ourselves stories, the ability to think about the future and what might happen, the ability to reminisce on the past and what has already happened. Animals can't do this. This is why we dominate the animal kingdom, even though many animals are bigger, stronger, and faster than us, because we are smarter than them. But this ability to be smart also can be a detriment when used the wrong way. Point number two, where are your emotions controlling your steering wheel? This is another skill that human beings have that animals don't. We have the ability to think logically and not just react emotionally and instinctively like animals do, but often we allow our emotions to control our actions, and only later on, when we get a chance to realize what the hell we did, we realize that we fucked up. So make sure you are checking yourself as often as possible that you are not allowing your emotions to grab the wheel of your vehicle, because those emotions will run you right into a brick wall, and I haven't seen too many humans win a fight against a brick wall. Number three, where am I not living up to my own principles and positions? In other words, where are you doing things that are out of integrity with what you say to everybody else and even what you say to yourself? This is where you really got to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, because every single human on this planet, everyone listening to me right now, has an answer to this question right here. Where are you not doing the things that you talk about? Where are you not living up to your own ideals, at least the ones that you claim that you have? If everybody answered this question honestly and made changes necessary, like Michael Jackson says, the man in the mirror, there'd be very little underperforming and very little underachievement in the world. Even if only 2% of the population did it, that's 160 million people. A lot of things would be different if even 160 million out of 8 billion people lived up to every single thing they wrote and talked about. But since we are not building condos on the moon yet, that's because everybody has an answer to this question right here. So with all that said, text me to get my daily motivation straight to your phone. My number is 305-384-6894. Second, go get your ticket to Work On Your Game Live by going to workonyourgame.live. That event's February 3rd and 4th in Miami. Third, you want to be coached by me, go to workonyourgame.net/apply. Put in your information, pick a time on the calendar, fill out the quick application. We'll be talking to you soon, and I'll tell you what my program is, how it works, how you can get started, and what you're going to get. Work on your game. Dre, all